Hi everyone, this is what happened to me when I got government housing part 39. Now we're up to the 18th of November 2016. By this stage, I had already suffered assaults, property damage, loss of freedom, among other things, and the police and lawyers had refused to assist me. And the respondent's lawyer had yelled at me in court and made me cry. And the judge, hearing my case, did nothing to stop him. But that wasn't all that was happening. As I've said in earlier videos, I had to continue with all the other parts of life as well as doing all of that, or try to. I had to do the things that make up life, like shopping and so on. And because people working in the justice system were refusing to help me, or even refusing to do their jobs where I was concerned, I had a lot of administrative work to deal with. One of the administrative tasks I had to do on my own was dealing with the Victims of Crime Assistance Tribunal. And up until this date, they had sent me a few letters. The letter that I received on the 18th of the 11th, 2016, reads as follows. What proof of evidence do you rely upon in relation to the breach of intervention order and how your damaged washing machine was caused during the breach of intervention order? I didn't understand what was being asked, and to be honest, I didn't understand why I was being asked that. And I don't think that sentence makes sense anyway. To me, it sounded like the staff at VOCAT were just being smartasses, deliberately confusing me. And I don't know if that question could have been written as, what evidence do you have to support your application for compensation? I think that would have been a much better way of putting it. That is assuming that they wanted me to understand what they're saying, and the point I'm making is I don't think they did. I think they could have written the question in plain English, and I don't see any need for the convoluted nature of the sentence. To me, it just doesn't sound like good English. And given the staff at the Victims of Crime Assistance Tribunal are professionals, I can only deduce that they were deliberately confusing me. The other issue I had with that letter is that it was burdening me with the work of the police. For example, I haven't been trained in evidence gathering, and I shouldn't have been made to present my own evidence. As the victim of the property damage and as someone who reported that incident to the police, it was obvious that any questions about evidence should go to the police. I had submitted photos of the washing machine and I wanted compensation for it, as I was a single parent and there was no other way that I could afford to replace it. Also, I believed that I had the same right to compensation as the thousands of other applicants who apply for compensation each year. I had repeatedly stated that I didn't care whether or not the respondent was the perpetrator. I just wanted compensation. My application wasn't about my intervention order. It was about the fact that a crime and property damage had occurred, and as a matter of course, compensation should have been paid to me for many reasons, including the shock of the crime and the ongoing expenses of attending the laundrette. I already received another letter from them dated on the 27th of the 9th, 2016, and once again, the letter looked like they were speaking in riddles and making fun of me. This letter reads, "The tribunal member is seeking clarification as to whether this application is related to the same application that was finalised by the tribunal on the 19th of the 7th, 2016, or is it a fresh application?" I can't think of any reason why they would ask me this, other than to be nasty and play mind games with me, and to stall me in the same way that the police stalled and stonewalled me. Surely they could have deduced this information themselves. If they read my application, they would see that the facts of the case were, and see the dates and times involved. They could also read that I was at the same address. I was in a situation where I was being repeatedly assaulted by the same person, and I had suffered property damage, which may have been by the same person, but as I'm not a police officer, I shouldn't have had to provide evidence about those crimes or explain what happened. I mean, how could I? I was reporting what happened to me, and I think I did a good job of doing that, despite my poverty and my circumstances and everything that I had going against me. They also sent me another letter, dated the 14th of October 2016. Because I was on a pension and the property damage had such a great effect on my life, uh, that meant that losing my washing machine and dryer was a huge loss for me. As a single mum, as a pensioner, I didn't own anything of value, and my washing machine and dryer were my biggest assets. When I lost them, I lost great housekeeping tools that helped me so much in my life. And when I had to go to the laundrette all the time, I lost money, and the ongoing effects of that fact were never ending. As I've said earlier, I was diagnosed as being low in iron, probably as a result of a poor diet, as a result of poverty, as a result of having to go to the laundrette, as a result of suffering property damage to my washing machine and dryer. It was easy for me to see how being a victim of crime had ongoing consequences, but the staff at the Victims of Crime Assistance Tribunal didn't see that. I felt like I could see stuff that they couldn't see. I applied for an interim order of assistance. That is a way of getting compensation money before the final hearing of my application for compensation, but it was refused. And this is the letter here. You can see that they have stated, at this stage, the tribunal member will not make the interim awards as requested. The member seeks further clarification on what act of violence you say has occurred and how this has been demonstrated by the alleged offender. And this was a problem that I had a lot. The courts and the police were focused on the respondent because I had said he had committed some of the crimes that I've reported. But all I wanted was compensation so I could mend my life and get back to normal. That letter is fixated on the respondent and even seeks to make me getting compensation dependent on him, which I found really offensive. The courts couldn't separate me from him, even though I had no association with him. I didn't care whether he committed all the crimes or just the ones that I witnessed, but I wanted compensation for all of the crimes committed against me because I was still a victim of those crimes, whether or not he was the perpetrator. And the courts didn't get that. The Victims of Crime Tribunal seemed fixated on his defence, and it seemed to me that this fixation was stopping them from perceiving me as a victim and stopping them from understanding what was happening to me. My application was about me and my suffering. It wasn't about the respondent. It got to the point where I thought of using some of my daughter's Lego blocks to build a model of the block of units that I live in, and then using figures to demonstrate what was happening to me. At the time, I thought it would have helped the police and the courts to understand what I was saying, but now that I look back at it, I don't believe that it would. I know that I provided more than enough evidence to support my application for compensation, and I don't think anything would have changed the outcome. After everything that I had already been through, this was too much for me to bear, and I decided to withdraw my application for compensation from the Victims of Crime Compensation Tribunal on the 18th of the 11th, 2016.